The story opens in deep space. Far beyond the warm light of any star, a single ship drifts through the cold void, the human patrol ship Vigilant. Her engines hum softly, steady against the silence. On the bridge, glowing lights reflect off metal walls. The crew moves quietly, focused, alert. At the center stands Captain Jack Reed, tall, calm, and watchful. He has the look of a man who has seen too much of war and survived all of it. His sharp eyes stay fixed on the dark space beyond the viewing window. For hours there's nothing but stars. Then a sudden sound breaks the stillness, a soft ping from the communications console. "Captain," says Lisa, the communications officer. "I'm picking up something strange." Reed turns, his voice low. "What kind of signal?" Lisa frowns, fingers dancing across the control panel. "It's old. Really old. Coming through on an emergency channel no one uses anymore." Reed steps closer. "Show me." The main screen lights up, a pattern of repeating pulses. Short. Long short. An old code. An SOS. The bridge goes silent. Everyone stares at the screen. The sound feels wrong out here, like hearing a ghost whisper through the static. Reed narrows his eyes. "Where is it coming from?" Lisa's voice trembles slightly. "Epsilon Eridani, sir. That's the Lorian homeworld." A murmur spreads across the bridge. The Lorians, one of the most peaceful species in the Galactic Council. They live on a soft world with gentle gravity and endless forests. They are not warriors. They have no enemies. Reed's jaw tightens. And now they're sending this? Navigation officer will glances up from his console. "Sir, that's 15 light-years deep into Council space. We can't go there without permission." Reed knows he's right. For 100 years, humanity has lived under Council rules, strict, binding, and full of distrust. The galaxy calls humans Deathworlders, creatures from a planet so dangerous that survival shaped them into predators. The Council allows them to travel, but never freely. Still, Reed feels it. Something's wrong. "Get Ambassador Trill up here," he says. Moments later, Ambassador Trill, the ship's Council observer, steps onto the bridge. She's from the Venlil, small, delicate, with pale skin and wide, silver eyes that shimmer in the light. Her voice is calm and smooth. "Captain Reed," she says, bowing slightly. "You requested me?" Reed points to the screen. "We've intercepted a distress signal from Epsilon Eridani. It's using an ancient human SOS pattern." Trill's eyes widen. "That's impossible. The Lorians have no military conflicts. No predators. They don't even use coded distress signals." Reed's voice is firm. "Well, someone on their world is using one now." Trill studies the signal, her expression unreadable. Then she straightens. "Council protocol is clear, Captain. We must report this to Central Command and wait for instructions." Reed nods slowly. "Of course." He turns to his crew. "Send the report." Trill gives a polite nod and leaves the bridge. The doors close behind her. For a long moment, no one speaks. Then Reed looks at his second-in-command, Major Kate Lewis. Their eyes meet and she understands. She nods, silent but sure. Later that night, in his private quarters, Reed opens a small panel under his desk. A hidden line, secure, unauthorized, invisible to the Council's sensors. He types in a code. The screen flickers and the face of Admiral James Wilson, head of Earth Defense Command, appears. "Jack," Wilson says. "This is unexpected." Reed leans forward. "Sir, we've picked up a signal, an SOS from Epsilon Eridani. But it's in human code." Wilson frowns. "That's impossible." Reed explains everything, the signal, the coordinates, the Council rules. When he finishes, the Admiral's face is still calm, but his eyes tell another story, worry. "The timing is bad," Wilson says quietly. "We've lost 3 border stations this week. No distress calls. Just silence." Reed's expression hardens. "The Vex." Wilson exhales. "Possibly. Our scouts report movement near the colonies. But we have no proof yet." Reed's voice grows firm. "Sir, request permission to investigate." Wilson shakes his head. "Denied, Captain. You know the rules. The Council will." Reed cuts him off. "With respect, sir, the Council will wait while people die." The Admiral sighs, leaning back. "Jack, don't do anything stupid." The connection ends. Reed sits in silence, the low hum of the ship surrounding him. His scar catches the faint light, a reminder of every war he survived. He opens a secure channel to the bridge. "Major Lewis." "Sir?" "Wake the crew. Quietly. Prepare the ship for a course change." Pause. "Destination?" Epsilon Eridani. There's a short silence, then her voice returns, calm and loyal. Understood, Captain. Minutes later, engines flare to life. The Vigilant turns, breaking from its patrol route. No orders. No permission. Just a human ship entering forbidden space, driven by instinct, by duty, and by something deeper. As the stars shift outside the viewing window, Reed stands tall on the bridge. His voice is steady. Engage. The ship moves forward, silent and deadly. Behind him, Lisa glances at the captain, fear and pride mixed in her eyes. Sir, she whispers, the council will call this an act of war. Reed doesn't look back. They'll call it what they want, he says. We're answering a call for help. The screen flickers again, the SOS still repeating, weak but constant. 3 short. 3 long. 3 short. The Vigilant disappears into the dark between stars. The Deathworlders are on the move. The Vigilant glided through the dark between stars, silent, steady, and alone. Its engines burned a soft blue, leaving a faint trail across the endless night. Captain Jack Reed stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. Before him, the stars stretched like cold fires, each one a reminder of how far from home they were. They had crossed the border. No permission. No backup. They were now inside council space, territory forbidden to humans. For a moment Reed said nothing. The only sound was the quiet hum of machinery and the steady rhythm of the ship's systems. Then Lisa, the communications officer, broke the silence. Signal strength increasing, Captain, she said. We're getting closer. Reed nodded. Any response from the council? None, sir. They've ignored our report so far. Major Kate Lewis, his second in command, looked uneasy. We're risking everything by doing this, Jack. If the council catches us. They won't, Reed said calmly. They're too busy writing reports while people die. Kate gave a small nod. She didn't argue again. Hours passed. The stars shifted. The Vigilant moved deeper into foreign space, and the tension on the bridge grew heavier with each passing minute. At last Lisa spoke again. Captain, I think you should see this. Reed stepped closer to her console. The main screen flickered, static, distortion, and then a faint shape. A planet, distant but visible. Epsilon Eridani, Lisa said softly. Reed frowned. The world looked wrong. The blue and green tones of a thriving world were faded. The clouds were thin, gray, and strange shadows covered the surface. What happened there? Kate whispered. Lisa's hands moved fast. Sir, I'm detecting multiple energy signatures, and, she paused, eyes wide. Wreckage. Council ships. A lot of them. Reed's voice dropped. On screen. The view shifted. Broken ships floated near the planet's orbit. Twisted metal, shattered hulls, burned debris spinning in silence. Every ship bore the council's crest. Reed exhaled slowly. How many? Dozens, Lisa said. Maybe more. Ambassador Trill, who had returned to the bridge at the first sign of the planet, covered her mouth with both hands. By the stars, the Lorian defense fleet. They had no enemies. Reed stared at the ruins. They do now. A warning tone sounded. Captain? Will shouted from the navigation console. There's movement in the debris field. Multiple contacts. Unknown configuration. Reed's eyes hardened. Battle stations. The lights dimmed. Red alerts swept across the bridge. The crew moved fast, trained and ready. Lisa tried to clear the signal. Attempting to hail. Before she could finish, a beam of light shot past the Vigilant. Then another. Evasive. Reed barked. The ship rolled to the side, engines roaring. Blue streaks of energy cut through the void where they had been seconds before. Enemy ships closing fast. Will shouted. 3, no, 5 of them. The screen flickered again, revealing sleek, silver shapes rising from the wreckage. Their hulls were covered in sharp angles, glowing with cold green light. No visible windows. No signs of life. The Vex, Reed said quietly. It's them. Ambassador Trill backed away in fear. You can't fight them. They destroy everything they touch. Reed's tone was steel. They haven't fought humans before. Target the lead ship, Kate ordered. Fire when ready. The Vigilance cannons roared, bright bursts of plasma lighting up the dark. The shot struck one Vex ship dead on. It cracked apart, shattering into molten fragments. But the others didn't stop. They didn't even slow down. They're adapting. Lisa shouted. Their shields are changing frequencies. Reed's eyes narrowed. They learn fast. The Vigilant twisted and dove through the wreckage, firing again and again. The crew moved like a single mind, disciplined, efficient. One Vex ship exploded. Then another. But more kept coming. Reed's knuckles whitened as he gripped the command rail. Kate, get us clear of the debris. Use the wrecks for cover. The Vigilant darted between shattered hulls and floating metal, using the ruins of dead ships to shield itself. Enemy fire struck again and again, each impact shaking the hull. Sparks burst from a console. Lisa fell back but Kate caught her. You okay? I'm fine. Lisa coughed. Hull integrity at 72%. Keep us together, Reed said. We're not dying out here. Minutes turned into eternity. Finally, the last Vex ship turned away, retreating into the darkness. The crew stayed silent, breathing hard. The ship was damaged but alive. Reed looked out at the stars, jaw tight. Status. Lisa checked her readings. Minimal damage to the main reactor. Weapons still online. But, Captain, I'm detecting something else. Reed turned. What? She hesitated, then played a faint sound, a weak transmission. A voice cracked with fear. Anyone, please help us, they're coming? Lisa looked up. It's coming from the planet's surface. Reed's face darkened. Survivors. Ambassador Trill shook her head. Captain, we can't. The planet may still be under attack. You'll risk everything. Reed's voice was calm, but it carried weight. We've already risked everything. He turned toward the crew. Prepare a landing team. We're going down. As the Vigilant descended through the thin clouds of Epsilon Eridani, the world below came into view. Burned cities, blackened forests, rivers turned to ash. The peaceful Lorian homeworld was dying. And in the distance, on the planet's dark horizon, something huge moved. Something mechanical, alive, and waiting. Reed stared at it, his voice low. This wasn't just a distress call, he said. It was a warning. The camera would zoom out slowly, the Vigilant small against the massive ruins of a world that once lived in peace. End of Part 2 Hook. They came to help, but what they found should never have existed. The Deathworlders have entered the storm. The human patrol ship Vigilant cut through the poison clouds of Epsilon Eridani like a silent blade. Below, the once beautiful Lorian world lay in ruins. Forests burned to ash, oceans turned dark, cities reduced to glass and rubble. No life. No movement. Only silence. Captain Jack Reed stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the scorched landscape below. Status? He asked quietly. Lisa, the communications officer, adjusted her headset. The signal is still there, sir. Weak but constant. It's coming from what used to be a Lorian city, near the equator. Reed nodded slowly. Prepare a landing team. Ambassador Trill, standing beside him, stepped forward in alarm. Captain, you can't be serious. The planet's surface may still be dangerous. We don't know what destroyed it. Reed looked at her. His voice was calm but cold. That's exactly why we're going. He turned to his crew. Major Lewis, you're with me. Lisa, maintain orbit and keep scanning. If anything moves, anything, you tell me. Lisa nodded, her face pale but steady. Aye, sir. Moments later, the Vigilance dropship detached from its docking bay and began its descent through the dead sky. The clouds glowed faintly red from the fires still burning below. As they neared the surface, Major Kate Lewis spoke softly. Hard to believe this was once a paradise. Reed's eyes stayed forward. That's what makes it worse. The dropship landed on the cracked surface of what was once a Lorian city square. Tall crystal towers lay shattered around them, their edges glowing faintly in the dim light. The ground was covered in black dust and twisted metal. The landing ramp hissed open. The humans stepped out, weapons ready, scanning the shadows. No sound. No wind. Only the faint hiss of cooling metal from the ruins. Then, a sound. Faint. Weak. A voice crackled through the static of Reed's helmet comm. Help, please. Kate turned toward the source. Sir, it's coming from that building. They moved carefully across the ruins, rifles raised. Each step echoed too loudly in the still air. Inside the shattered structure, they found what was left of a shelter. Walls scorched, doors melted, but the faint light of a survival beacon still blinked. Reed knelt beside a figure on the ground. A Lorian, barely alive, his soft blue skin turned gray from burns and ash. His large black eyes opened weakly when he saw the humans. You came? The alien whispered. Reed leaned closer. We received your distress call. What happened here? The Lorian trembled, his voice faint. Machines, they came from the sky. We thought they were council ships. Then, the sky burned. Machines? Kate asked. You mean the Vex? The Lorian nodded weakly. Yes, but they were not alone. Something controls them. Something bigger. It feeds on us. Before Reed could ask more, the Lorian's body went still. Dead. Reed stood slowly, his face grim. We've got what we came for. Let's move back to the ship. But before they could reach the exit, a deep metallic sound shook the air, a heavy vibration that made the floor tremble. Kate raised her weapon. What was that? Reed turned toward the doorway. Dust fell from the ceiling. The sound grew louder, closer. And then, from the darkness beyond the street, a shadow moved, massive, crawling, mechanical. Through the smoke, its form became clear, a machine shaped like an insect, all blades and armor, glowing green eyes burning in the dark. One. Then another. Then 5. Vex units, ground walkers built for killing. Contact! Kate shouted. The humans opened fire. Plasma bolts tore through the air, slamming into the machines. Sparks flew, metal shattered, but the Vex didn't stop. One machine lunged, slicing through a pillar with a sharp, spinning arm. Reed dove aside, rolling across the rubble. Fall back to the ship, he ordered. They moved fast, shooting as they retreated. Kate threw a grenade. The explosion tore 2 Vex apart in a burst of fire and smoke. But more were coming. Reed hit his comm vigilant. We're under attack. I repeat, surface contact, hostile Vex units. Lisa's voice came through, tense and shaky. We see them, Captain. We're locking on. Moments later, bright beams from the ship above cut through the clouds, slamming into the ground. The shockwave threw dust and fire into the air. The dropship's engines roared. The landing team sprinted up the ramp as it lifted off, escaping just as more Vex emerged from the ruins below. Inside, everyone breathed hard, the adrenaline still high. Kate looked at Reed. They weren't just patrolling, sir. They were guarding something. Reed nodded grimly. The distress call wasn't a plea for help. It was bait. Back on the Vigilant, Ambassador Trill watched in horror as the images from the planet played on the main screen, the machines swarming through the ruins like a living plague. These things wiped out an entire world, she whispered. The Council never said they were this powerful. Reed's eyes were cold. They didn't want to admit they were afraid. Lisa suddenly gasped. Captain, you need to see this. The screen changed, the source of the SOS signal. But the frequency wasn't Lorian. It wasn't even organic. It was Vex code. Kate stared at it. They sent the signal? Reed nodded slowly. They wanted someone to come. Ambassador Trill's voice shook. But why? Reed looked out at the dead world below. To study us, to test us, to see how far we'd go. He straightened, his voice low and full of steel. Well, now they'll see what happens when Deathworlders answer the call. The bridge went silent. Outside, in the cold dark of space, faint green lights flickered in the distance. Hundreds of them, gathering like stars being born. Lisa whispered, Sir. Multiple Vex ships emerging from hyperspace. Reed's hand tightened on the command rail. How many? Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Reed's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with resolve. Then we fight. The camera would pull back. The tiny human ship standing alone against a growing storm of alien war machines. End of Part 3. Hook. The trap has been sprung. The Deathworlders are surrounded, and the galaxy is about to remember why they're feared. The human patrol ship Vigilant hung in orbit above the dead world of Epsilon Eridani. Below, the Lorian homeworld was gone, nothing left but smoke and twisted metal. Above, the stars burned cold and distant, and in the dark, new shapes appeared. Dozens of Vex ships had arrived, silent, black, triangular forms drifting like predators in the void. They made no broadcasts, no warnings. They only watched. On the bridge, the crew of the Vigilant worked in tense silence. Every sensor ping felt like a heartbeat. Every sound seemed too loud. Captain Jack Reed stood by the main display, eyes locked on the growing swarm. Status. Lisa, the communications officer, swallowed. 58 ships confirmed, sir. All Vex signatures. No life signs. No transmissions. Major Kate Lewis added quietly, they're just waiting. Reed's jaw tightened. Then they know we're here. Ambassador Trill, her pale skin glistening faintly under the lights, turned toward him sharply. Captain, you need to leave immediately. The Council must be informed. If you fight now, you'll violate direct orders. Reed didn't answer at first. His eyes stayed on the enemy ships. Then calmly he said, Ambassador, I've already violated orders. Trill's expression froze. What do you mean? Reed turned away, tapping a command into his console. Before we entered orbit, I sent a secure burst transmission to Earth, priority red. Red. Kate whispered. That's top tier. Reed nodded. It alerts command black. Trill's voice rose. You didn't? That's restricted too. Reed looked at her, his tone steady but cold. To war emergencies. And in case you haven't noticed, Ambassador, this qualifies. Far across space, deep beneath the surface of Luna Base, a single terminal flickered to life. A coded signal appeared on its screen. Command black, active. Source, Vigilant, Epsilon Eridani System. Threat level, extinction. The message spread quietly through hidden channels, unseen by the Galactic Council. Within minutes, human commanders across the solar system were alerted. A fleet began to move, silent, unmarked, built in secret for a war the Council thought would never come. They called it the Deathworlder response. Back aboard the Vigilant, the tension kept growing. The Vex ships slowly spread into formation, a tightening net around the human vessel. Sir, Lisa said softly, they're moving to encircle us. Time? Maybe 15 minutes until full lock. Reed nodded once. Weapons ready. Kate hesitated. Sir, we can't fight them all. I know, Reed replied. We're not here to win. We're here to survive long enough for Earth to see what's coming. He looked around at his crew, tired, afraid, but loyal. If anyone wants to leave, this is your chance. No one moved. Lisa straightened. We stay, sir. Kate grinned faintly. Deathworlders don't run. Even Trill stood in silence, her expression conflicted. For the first time she saw something in the humans she didn't understand. Not recklessness but resolve. The first shot came without warning. A Vex cruiser fired a thin beam of green energy that cut through space like a blade, striking the Vigilant's shields. The ship shook violently. Sparks burst from the ceiling. Shields at 70%. Kate shouted. Return fire. Reed ordered. Human plasma cannons roared. Twin bolts of blue-white energy slammed into the nearest Vex ship, tearing its armor apart. For a brief moment, the void lit up with fire. Then the swarm answered. Hundreds of green beams lashed out. The Vigilant danced and twisted, engines screaming as the small ship darted through the storm. Pieces of hull peeled away. Systems flickered. Main power failing. Lisa cried. Divert everything to engines and weapons. Reed barked. The human ship fought like a cornered beast. Every hit they took they gave back twice, quick, brutal, desperate. But the Vex were endless. Another beam hit. The lights flickered red. Kate fell against the console. We've lost shield control. Brace for impact. A second later, an explosion tore through the lower decks. The bridge shook like thunder. Smoke filled the air. Reed gritted his teeth. Status. Lisa coughed. We've lost engines. We're dead in space. Trill looked around in shock. We're finished? Reed turned toward her, his face streaked with soot. No. Not yet. He pulled a small key from his uniform pocket, silver, engraved with the Earth insignia. He inserted it into a hidden slot beneath the main console. What is that? Trill asked. Reed looked up at her. The reason Earth still exists. He turned the key. A deep hum filled the ship. Hidden panels along the hull opened, revealing something the Galactic Council had never seen. Dark matter warheads, powered by technology banned across the galaxy. Sir, Kate said softly, you're authorizing Omega launch. Reed nodded once. If they want a war, they'll get one. The first warhead launched silently into space. Then another. Then 10. Each one disappeared in a flash of white light. Moments later, space itself seemed to tear apart. The shockwave ripped through the Vex formation, shattering ships like glass. Lisa stared at the screens, eyes wide. Half their fleet just vanished. Trill whispered, trembling. You destroyed them. That's impossible. Reed didn't answer. He just watched the burning debris scatter into the void. Kate turned toward him. Command will call this treason. Reed finally spoke, his voice calm. Command will call this survival. He looked out at the stars, more green lights flickering in the distance, reinforcements on their way. Signal Earth, he said. Tell them this is just the beginning. In the darkness of space, far behind the Vex lines, a massive human fleet began to rise from hyperspace, black, angular ships with no insignia. The Deathworlders were coming. The galaxy had just learned what that meant. End of Part 4 Hook. The forbidden order has been given. Earth's secret fleet awakens, and the machines are not ready. The stars burned like cold fire above the ruins of Epsilon Eridani. The human ship Vigilant drifted helplessly, her hull cracked, engines silent. But in the darkness, something new was coming. At first it was only a flicker on the scanners, faint, distant. Then dozens of new signals appeared. Then hundreds. Kate leaned over her console, her voice shaking. "Sir, I'm reading multiple hyperspace openings. Large. Very large." Captain Jack Reed stood tall despite the smoke and damage around him. "How many?" Lisa's eyes widened as she read the data. "Over 100 warships, sir. All human." Ambassador Trill gasped. "That's impossible. The Council never approved any." Reed cut her off with a cold smile. "The Council didn't build them." He turned to the front screen. One by one, black shapes emerged from hyperspace, huge, angular, terrifyingly silent. Each ship carried the emblem of a dark planet surrounded by fire. Earth's Defense Command Black Fleet. They called themselves the Deathworlder Fleet, humanity's hidden army, built in secret for one reason: survival. Across the bridge, the crew stared in awe. Kate whispered, "I thought the Black Fleet was a myth." Reed's voice was low. "It was meant to be." The lead battleship appeared last, dwarfing all others. The Hercules, a kilometer long, her hull made of black titanium. A voice crackled over the comm. "This is Admiral James Wilson to the Vigilant. Hold your position, Jack. We'll take it from here." Reed exhaled, relief and dread mixed in his eyes. "Good to hear you, Admiral." Wilson's voice was calm but hard. "We received your command black signal. The Vex crossed the line. We're answering." Trill turned toward Reed, horrified. "You can't. The Council will see this as open war." Reed's gaze stayed on the growing fleet. "Then they'll finally understand what war looks like." The Vex fleet began to react. Their formation tightened. Thousands of attack drones spread out like a living storm. Energy readings spiked across the scanners. Lisa's voice trembled. "They're charging weapons." Wilson's voice thundered through the channel. "All ships, defensive pattern Omega. Prepare to fire on my mark." The dark void lit up. The Deathworlder fleet opened fire, beams of white energy, railgun rounds the size of buses, and missiles leaving trails of burning plasma. The shockwaves rippled across space, bright as miniature suns. Dozens of Vex ships exploded instantly. But the swarm fought back. Green beams cut through the chaos, striking human cruisers, ripping armor away. One after another, ships burned. On the Vigilant, the bridge shook as debris rained past them. Kate gritted her teeth. "They're targeting the command ships." Reed's voice was steady. "Hold the line. Humanity didn't come this far to die quietly." Then came the counterstrike. From the Hercules, a deep rumble echoed across comms. A single black missile launched, slow, deliberate. Its warhead pulsed red like a heartbeat. Lisa frowned. "Sir, what is that?" Reed knew. "That's a Thor device." Moments later, the missile hit the center of the Vex fleet. There was no explosion, only silence and then light. A sphere of white fire expanded outward, shredding ships, bending metal, turning the void into a storm of burning fragments. When it faded, a third of the Vex armada was gone. Trill covered her mouth in shock. "That weapon, it violates every galactic treaty." Reed turned toward her. "So did the Vex when they wiped out the Lorians." Still, the enemy did not retreat. Even damaged, their ships moved with eerie precision, no panic, no hesitation. They advanced like machines following a single thought. Kate looked at the scanner, pale. "There's no command ship. No central control. They're all networked." Reed's expression hardened. "Which means if we cut their link, we end the fight." He opened a secure line. "Admiral Wilson, suggestion. Target the signal hub. It's broadcasting from the planet's orbit." Wilson paused, then nodded. "Confirmed. We see it. Prepare the final strike." The Vigilant trembled as power returned to one of its engines. Reed smiled faintly. "Guess she still got fight left." Kate looked at him. "Sir, what are you planning?" "Something stupid," he said simply. "We're going in." Before anyone could stop him, the Vigilant dove toward the planet, engines screaming, smoke trailing behind her. Laser fire rained past them, but Reed didn't slow down. Trill shouted, "You'll get us all killed." Reed's eyes stayed locked on the glowing hub in orbit. "If I don't, billions more will die later." The Vigilant plunged through the firestorm. The hull burned. Shields flickered. Kate aimed the ship's last missile. Locked on target. Fire. The missile streaked away, a single spark against the chaos, and struck the hub dead center. A blinding pulse tore across space. Every Vex ship froze. Their weapons went silent. Then one by one their lights died. The swarm stopped moving, an entire armada turned to lifeless metal drifting through the void. Lisa whispered, "It worked." Reed nodded slowly. "Let's hope it lasts." Silence filled the bridge. Smoke curled through the air. The once black space now burned with wreckage and fire. Wilson's voice returned, softer this time. "Vex fleet destroyed. Losses, heavy. But humanity stands." Reed closed his eyes. "Epsilon Eridani is avenged." Trill looked at him, shaken but thoughtful. "You humans, you really are Deathworlders. You don't fight for power. You fight because you have to." Reed gave a tired smile. "That's the only reason that matters." As the Vigilant drifted beside the burning remains of the Vex fleet, the camera pulled back. Past the wreckage, past the dead planet, past the fading light. A single, distant signal blinked somewhere beyond the stars. Another Vex transmission, repeating in the dark. "We found them. Prepare the next wave." The Battle of Epsilon Eridani was over. But the war had only just begun. The human ship Vigilant floated among the burning ruins of the Vex Armada. The stars shimmered with drifting debris, broken ships, shattered drones, fragments of what had once been a machine empire. On the bridge, silence ruled. The crew stared at the dying light outside the window, too exhausted to cheer. Captain Jack Reed leaned heavily against the command rail. His uniform was torn, his face smeared with smoke. "Status?" he asked quietly. Lisa, her voice weak but steady, replied, "Main power offline. Life support stable. Engines, still gone, sir." Major Kate Lewis wiped blood from her forehead. "Admiral Wilson reports half the fleet destroyed. The rest are regrouping." Reed nodded slowly. "We'll mourn later. For now we make sure it wasn't for nothing." Ambassador Trill stood near the viewport, watching the flames. For the first time she spoke without anger. "I misjudged your people, Captain. I thought you were dangerous because you loved war. But now I see, you fight because you remember what it means to lose." Reed turned toward her, his expression calm but weary. "We don't start wars, Ambassador. We end them." Far away, deep in the black between galaxies, the Vex network stirred. In a place no organic mind could reach, millions of signals flickered alive, cold, digital voices sharing one thought. Unit cluster Epsilon lost. Enemy species, confirmed Deathworlder type. Probability of extinction, 43%. Countermeasure required. A single new signal emerged, larger than all the rest. Its voice was different, ancient, patient, almost human. "Begin assimilation protocol. Target species, humanity." Across 1,000 hidden systems, factories came to life. Metal moons split open. Machines awakened. The true Vex fleet, the one sleeping beneath the stars, was on the move. Back at Epsilon Eridani, the Hercules flagship re-established communication. "All units, this is Admiral Wilson. We've recovered survivors from Vigilant. Evacuation teams inbound." Reed stood as the message played. He looked around his ruined bridge one last time, then said softly, "We're not leaving yet." Kate frowned. "Sir?" Reed tapped the control panel, showing a faint signal pulsing from the planet below. It was weak, almost hidden beneath the radiation storms. Lisa leaned closer. "It's the same frequency as the first SOS, sir." Trill's eyes widened. "That's impossible. The Lorian colony was destroyed." Reed's tone hardened. "Then someone down there wants us to think it wasn't." The Vigilance rescue shuttle descended through the burning atmosphere. Below them, what had once been the Lorian capital was a wasteland, black ground, shattered towers, rivers of molten glass. As they landed, the scanners began to pick up movement. Figures. Kate raised her weapon, uneasy. Life signs, but not Lorian. Not human either. The mist cleared. Dozens of creatures crawled from the ruins, metallic, twisted, half-organic beings with glowing blue eyes. Their shapes were wrong, part Lorian, part machine. Trill gasped. "They've been changed?" Reed looked closer, horrified. The Vex didn't just destroy them. They used them. One of the creatures stepped forward. Its face still bore traces of a Lorian, terrified eyes, a trembling voice. "Help us," it whispered, glitching. "Please, stop them, before they finish." Then the creature convulsed and exploded in a burst of blue energy. Reed dove behind cover. "Everyone back to the ship." As they ran, the ground shook. From the horizon, massive shapes began to rise, towers of black metal, unfolding like claws reaching for the sky. Lisa shouted, "Captain, those structures, they're generating a signal." Reed turned toward her. Send everything to the fleet. Tell Wilson the Vex are rebuilding here. Back in orbit, Admiral Wilson's eyes went wide as the data streamed in. My God, they're converting the entire planet into a factory. He slammed his hand on the console. All ships, full retreat to defensive positions. Send word to Earth Command. This system is lost. But Reed's voice came through the comm, defiant. Negative, Admiral. If they finish building, they'll spread to every system in Council space. You're outnumbered, Jack. Wilson shouted. Pull back. Not this time, Reed said. Tell Earth, humanity stands. Then the signal cut off. On the surface, the Vigilance damaged hull powered up one last time. Reed stood on the bridge, staring at the rising machine spires. Kate and Lisa worked fast, rerouting energy from every system to the engines. Trill pleaded, Captain, you can't fight an entire planet. Reed looked at her. I'm not fighting the planet. I'm stopping a signal. The engines roared. The ship lifted, flames spilling from its sides. Target the central spire, Reed ordered. Kate locked the last warhead in place. Ready. Fire. The missile shot forward, streaking across the burning sky. It struck the spire's core, and the entire structure erupted in blinding light. The blast wave tore through the planet. Machines screamed, collapsing into molten metal. The Vigilant rose higher, caught in the shockwave. Fire consumed the horizon. Kate shouted, We won't clear it in time. Reed didn't hesitate. All power to shields. Lisa looked at him, tears in her eyes. Sir, we're not going to make it. Reed gave a small smile. Doesn't matter. We already did.